President Trump admitted he was not.
The time.
This is the American crossing coming from America into Canada. A little bit of a slow go, and they're doing an extra special search for you.
An unexpected U.S. checkpoint for travelers heading into D.C. at the Tucson border on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It was like, oh, did we make a mistake? Like something's going on, very concerned. Leslie, who wishes to remain anonymous because she's scared she could be red flagged, says Friday morning she crossed the border with her husband to grab some lunch and groceries. On their way back, traffic came to a halt a couple hundred meters south of the Canada border. I don't want to call it a blockade, but this is where they were stopping people. And I held up our Nexus cards, and the U.S. Customs agent waved us through. But as I passed and her windows were down, she said, let's stop and check the next one. They watched others undergo a thorough search, with officers opening their car doors and searching through their vehicles and trucks. It felt very, very uncomfortable. Other beach soldiers say they waited nearly 2 hours to get through before reaching Canadian officials. Immigration lawyer Les Saunders says random checks for illegal aliens or contraband happen from time to time. He says he's never seen anything like this.
He's really given no answer. It hasn't happened in every port of entry. I haven't heard it happening over at Colorado or Sumac or Linden.
Statement to Global News says, as part of its national security mission, U.S. Customs and Border Protection routinely conducts inspections on outbound traffic. The instructions are a vital tool in apprehending wanted individuals, as well as in seizing a variety of contraband. Also, it makes our traffic safer. By Sunday, the outbound checkpoints were gone. For both Americans and Canadians feel checks like this will deter more travelers from heading south, further impacting businesses in Blaine and Point Roberts, which rely on British Columbians.
We're brothers, we're sisters, and we shouldn't be turned away from each other.
And the very few Canadians who are coming to the U.S. right now to go shopping, get gas, pick up their parcels, nobody's going to come down here and stay in line for 2 hours.
For Leslie, it's the perception of increased suspicion from U.S. authorities. And you just kind of wonder, are you going to be the one that they decide, you come, get hauled in and you're there for hours? At least not a single week. The breaking news now is Donald Trump ordering a new tariff that could have a huge impact on the BC film industry. In a social media post late Sunday, the U.S. president said he's authorizing a 100% tariff on all movies coming into the state produced in, quote, foreign land. Trump says the American movie industry is dying a very fast death, and other countries are offering incentives to draw filmmakers and studios away. Now, there are no details on how those tariffs will be calculated, applied, or collected. Global News has reached out to the province for comment. In March, the provincial budget in BC increased its film tax credit to 40% in a bid to lure more productions here to Hollywood North. Later in the program, we will look at Trump's latest 51st day comment. Well, a record number of runners expressed thanks to Perfect Day of the BMO Marathon, but it's great to be reported following last Saturday's deadly attack on the Lapu Festival. Security was top of mind for the marathon's organizers, and many of the more than 25,000 runners spectators. The BMO Marathon brought a record number of participants today, over 25,000 people from more than 20 countries. This year, security was stepped up. More than 200 Vancouver police officers were deployed to the marathon, including ERT, who have been part of the plan since 2022. City of Vancouver dump trucks were brought in to act as heavy vehicle barriers, and portable vehicle barriers were also strategically placed. We work very closely with the BCB to make sure that we have everything in place. There were some extra barriers that were brought in, but that is planned given the record number of people this year. It's one of Vancouver's major events since last week's tragic Lapu Festival. After a driver ran through a crowd in East Vancouver, leaving 11 people dead and dozens more injured. It was on the minds of some of those attending the marathon.
I do believe that they set up extra security for this event, which is good, right? I think we need that. The world's changing.
Well, security is always a balance. You want to make sure that everybody's safe, but you also don't want people running around with AK-47s protecting you.
We do think that there's way more security than previous years. So, yeah, we at the it's normal to feel numb.
One of the greatest characteristics of trauma is disconnection from our physical bodies, from our emotions, our thoughts, our spirit, and sometimes each other.
Quarantine says it's important to share these difficult emotions with those you trust.
When animals are hurt, we have whatever it is that you're thinking.
Multiple growing memorials in and around the festival site where people have found solace and shared their anguish. This memorial at Kensington Community Centre allowing people to mourn privately, away from the ones along Fraser Street, which can be too triggering for some.
So we know right now the internet isn't necessarily a safe space for folks, so I'm really inviting folks to be curious and to notice on their moment-to-moment experience when showing up and to not judge.
It will take time, so be patient, be gentle, be kind to yourself.
They offered individual and group sessions at the Avery Therapy Center, and those quickly filled up.
I think what it says is we have a long journey ahead.
A journey no one should do alone. As for John Globally, a scary encounter for some transit passengers on Annis's Island this morning. Police say a man with a knife barricaded himself on a bus. Crisis negotiators and the Lower Mainland District Emergency Response Team were called to the scene. He was taken into custody just after 11 a.m. Several passengers and the driver were evacuated and no one was injured. Police say there is no risk to the public. A large fire in Surrey's Newton area has destroyed a commercial building. Plumes of smoke and flames began shooting out of the back of this building near 134th Street and 72nd Avenue around 7:30 this morning. 28 firefighters on scene quickly controlled the flames, preventing them from spreading to 4 neighboring units. Everyone was evacuated safely. The cause of the fire is under investigation. To some breaking news now, an out-of-control wildfire has prompted evacuations in northwestern Alberta. The 25-hectare fire is burning east toward Highway 40, about 15 minutes south of Grants Prairie. The province has issued a wildfire alert. Residents in the area are being evacuated as a precaution, and witnesses say some structures are starting to burn. The wildfire danger is also starting to climb across large parts of BC. The BC Wildfire Service says the arrival of warm, dry conditions has caused several overwintering or zombie fires to flare back up. Crews are on site at 2 such fires in BC's northeast, one along Highway 77 and another in the Fort Nelson River area. In both cases, the flames are still contained within the area of last summer's burn, but more resources are being dispatched in case they spread. Residents of the Fort Nelson area and drivers traveling along Highway 77 and the Alaska Highway can expect to see smoke, but at this point no homes, roads or infrastructure are threatened. There are currently 44 active wildfires burning in BC. The company building the wood fibre LNG terminal near Squamish wants to bring in a second flotel to house workers. The proposal calls for a second repurposed cruise ship to be moored at the site to house nearly 1,000 construction and support workers. The process to bring in the first flotel proved to be lengthy and controversial. Squamish Council initially rejected the plan, but that decision was overruled by the BC Environmental Assessment Office. The company says the experience with the first ship has been a success. When it opens in 2027, the wood fibre plant is expected to produce 2.1 million pounds of LNG for export annually. A new report is highlighting an oversaturated condo market in the Metro Vancouver area. Real estate intelligence firm Rennie Landscape predicts that by the end of 2025, there will be a 60% increase in the number of unsold condos, totaling over 3,400 new units. The cities most impacted include Richmond, Burnaby and Coquitlam. In response, developers are using new tactics to incentivize buyers.
Some instances what we have are developers who are holding completed but unsold inventory
and it's competing with units that are reselling in these already built towers, right? So that will, at the margin, have the effect of exerting some downward pressure on prices. You'll see some discounts. We've seen that in the market, some discounts on the homes being sold, or allowances being provided, where the developer...
Piece of heavy construction equipment was taken on a destructive rampage. It happened in Bonneville, Alberta, Saturday night. A suspect drove a stolen backhoe into the loft of the town's RCMP detachment, dumping several boulders in front of the prisoner bay before smashing 5 police vehicles. The suspect ran from the scene but was caught a short while later. There's no word on the motive for the attack. Charges in the case are still pending. Meantime, Alberta's Premier will make an unusual address Monday afternoon, laying out her vision for the province's relationship with Ottawa. On Friday, Danielle Smith had her first conversation with Prime Minister Mark Carney since the election. While both sides said the talk was positive, emotions among Alberta voters are running high, and with faltering oil prices are threatening to make a volatile situation even worse. Heather Uris West reports.
Summer out west is looming far from easy as Alberta prepares for some tough weeks ahead.
I mean, there's a few things. I mean, Alberta's economy is not doing so well. And really, when you see that, often individuals tend to take it out on the government.
With the price of oil closing below $59 a barrel Friday, Alberta's most important sector is on shaky ground, with a fourth Liberal federal government on the way.
Independence is inevitable here in Alberta.
It's a climate that's found Alberta's small but ever-present separatist movement in a position to gain ground.
We want to be in charge of our own nation. You start with a referendum, and this is why we have a rally, to inform people that the movement is strong, it's serious.
Alberta's premier, who doesn't support separatism, but whose government made it easier for the movement to put a referendum to voters, will speak directly to Albertans in a rare afternoon address on Monday at 3 p.m. local time online, not during the supper hour on television, as has been her usual practice.
This seems a just Easter anthem, so the supper hour is for all of us to watch it.
The province says the premier's address will outline the province's path forward with the federal government following a meeting Friday with the Alberta Government Caucus. Today, Smith also had her first conversation with the Prime Minister since last we spoke.
What I was encouraged by is that he is very clear about wanting to establish economic corridors, about moving quickly on big nation-building projects, and he wanted my feedback on what ones would be the most important for Alberta.
Hopeful signs of renewed cooperation as Alberta's energy sector navigates tenuous times. Heather Uris West, Global News, Calgary.
Ahead of Tuesday's planned meeting between Mark Carney and Donald Trump, the U.S. president says he doesn't think he'll ever order U.S. military action against Canada.
Would you rule out military force to take Canada?
Well, I think we're not going to ever get to that point.
Speaking on NBC's Meet the Press Sunday, Trump did not back away from the message that infuriated so many Canadians. Again, falsely claiming the U.S. subsidizes the Canadian economy. He also called out our country's spending on defense and contributions to NATO, and weighed in on his first impressions of Canada's new Prime Minister.
You have long talked about making Canada the 51st state. There's obviously a new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who you spoke to after his victory. He says that you didn't talk to him in that call about making Canada a 51st state.
You know, he called me. He was very nice, and I congratulated him. He had a victory. It's a very close victory. It's, there's no majority or anything, so that's going to make things a little bit difficult, I think, for him to run. But he nevertheless had a victory, and he's a very nice man, I think.
Do you plan to talk to him about making Canada a 51st state?
He wants to come and see me. He's going to come this week or next week.
So will you talk to him about making Canada a 51st state, annexing Canada?
I'll always talk about that. You know why? We subsidize Canada to the tune of $200 billion a year.
However, Trump would not rule out using military force to take over Greenland. After the break, a thwarted bomb attack at a Lady Gaga concert and the 80th anniversary of Dutch liberation.
In the Netherlands now, there is only one authority, and only one person who is important.
The events taking place in the Netherlands, including the continued gratitude Pope said to begin at the Vatican this week to choose a new pope.
And a pretty consistent flow of traffic over the Alex Fraser Bridge for our Sunday evening commute. All the connectors moving quite nicely, north, south, east, west, and the Queensboro connector, really no problems. Select Sussex Insurance and make a difference. When you renew your auto plan online, select your neighborhood Sussex Insurance location when prompted and help support Diabetes Canada, exclusively at Sussex Insurance. In Global One, high above the Alex Fraser Bridge, I'm Brad Russell.
Summer's coming, but you're cool because Ashton Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning can help you take advantage of a $5,000 dual-fuel heating system rebate from Fortis BC on the installation of a new, eligible electric heat pump and high-efficiency gas furnace. With 2 years of free maintenance with every installation, financing, and this very cool Fortis BC rebate, contact Ashton Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Conditions apply. Visit callashton.com for a free, no-obligation estimate. Ashton Service Group. Looking to buy or sell a used vehicle? Forget the selection and protection of BCAA Auto Marketplace. Try some random guy off the internet. Some random guy! Yes, zero security, zero peace of mind. Some random guy! Risk is part of the ride!
BCAA Auto Marketplace helps you buy and sell vehicles, just like we help you every day. Visit bcaa.com/marketplace and avoid some random guy! Wow, you have really nice balls, Steve. No, seriously, you have really nice balls.
Thank you. I got them from golfballs.ca.
Golfballs.ca?
Yeah, golfballs.ca. They're Canadian. Buy the highest quality used balls from golfballs.ca. Get yours at their warehouse location in the Tilbury Industrial Area, off River Road, or online at golfballs.ca. Use promo code CKNW for 20% off. Let's go.
So much later. Cheers.
It's going to be one hell of a competition.
What'd you guys make? A winning meal. There's a party happening in my mouth.
I'm here and I'm hungry.
I love to cook. Ooh, avocado salad. I must have given something right.
Print only on Flavor Network. Stream on Stack TV.
Brought to you by Pandora, official launch partner of Flavor Network. Mom! What's going on?
Ants! Get him off! Get him off!
Ants or other pets taking over your space? Contact Westside Pest Control for fast, safe, and effective removal. Now serving communities from Horseshoe Bay to Chilliwack. You're listening to Global News Hour Extra on 730 CKNW.
Police in Brazil say they've thwarted a bomb attack planned for a free Lady Gaga concert. Police say the plot was orchestrated by a group promoting hate speech and radicalization of teenagers. The suspects will also carry out coordinated attacks using improvised explosives and Molotov cocktails. Dozens of search warrants were conducted across the country and 2 people were arrested. Lady Gaga's historic free concert drew over 2 million people to Copacabana Beach, Rio de Janeiro, Texas. The people in the Netherlands are marking the 80th anniversary of their country's liberation from the Nazis during the Second World War. Central to those events, continued gratitude for the sacrifices made by Canadian soldiers who played a key role in driving out the Nazis. Mike Armstrong is in the Netherlands with the story of the Canadian general who helped secure the country's freedom.
A major part of the national commemoration in the Netherlands starts here in this square and then spreads literally across the country. The liberation flag symbolizes peace and freedom.
Fucking signal, man.
So like torches that will then be carried to other towns and cities to ignite the systems in all 12 provinces. Now, why here? Well, because of a Canadian officer's decision to force the German military that was occupying this country to surrender right in that building. The World Hotel in May of 1945 had been badly damaged in the war. It was chosen without being seen by Canadian Lieutenant General Charles Folks. He's the commander of 1st Canadian Corps and apparently chose the hotel because he liked the name. Now, the Germans were on the verge of surrendering in Europe, but Folks wanted them to do it officially in the Netherlands at the World Hotel first. The Dutch prince was on hand, representing the government in exile and the Dutch resistance. Folks summoned the top Nazi general in the Netherlands, Johannes Blaskowitz. At first, Blaskowitz sent his second in command, but folks said that wouldn't do and ordered Blaskowitz to appear. The meeting took place right in this room. To this day, the hotel calls this the Capitulation Lounge. Folk and the prince sat on one side of the table, the Nazis directly across on the other.
I want it made quite clear that in the Netherlands now there is only one authority and only one person who will issue orders. That is myself. I will issue my orders to General Blaskowitz. He will issue his orders to his own child.
There was no bargaining. This was lawful. It was unconditional surrender because this is dictated to you. You have to have. This is the tone that they want to send out to the world. They want to make sure that the world knows the Nazis are defeated and they're not coming back.
Now, that Nazi general would end up charged with war crimes, killed himself while awaiting trial at Nuremberg. But 80 years ago this week, he signed a paper and surrendered to a Canadian general.
The Netherlands prince inspects the guard of honor.
And the prince returned to the hotel a year later for the first anniversary on May 5th, but the actual document was only signed the day after the meeting on the 6th, according to some reports because no one could find a typewriter. But it's the day of the meeting that's celebrated as Liberation Day, and it's the World Hotel that's considered the birthplace
on the
of
wrong
that
side.
freedom. That hotel, by the way, is located on General Folk Street. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Wageningen, the Netherlands.
The mourning period is over for the late Pope Francis, and preparations are ramping up to choose his successor at the Vatican. Security is tight around St. Peter's Square as the church will be realized. In December, she applied to Vancouver Fashion Week and was accepted for their April show.
I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they actually contacted me. And then I was like, that's so exciting. But then I was also like, oh my god, that makes me so nervous.
Longmore says the experience was really positive, and seeing models wearing her dresses on the runway was surreal.
And as soon as I stepped out there, people were like, oh my god, we love your designs. They're so beautiful. Where can we buy them? And I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I wasn't expecting that response, but it was amazing.
Then another exciting opportunity came knocking. New York Fashion Week.
They actually told me that part of the reason why they really want to see my fashions come there is because it's different. They haven't seen it on their runway.
But it's expensive. Going to Vancouver costs nearly $15,000. New York wanted her in September, but she couldn't afford to go so soon. So she's committed to February, and hoping a GoFundMe will help her get there and another step closer to her goals.
Eventually get to a place where my sewing could be what I do all the time to support my family.
Nicole Stilger, Global News. Well, it's do or die for the Winnipeg Jets. Game 7 of the playoffs, round 1, taking on the Blues, and it is into overtime. Barry is here with sports. That's next.
Get rewarded with the no annual fee PC MasterCard and get up to $750 back in points every year on everything that makes you, you. No limits, just rewards on your terms. Can your cashback card do that? Visit pcfinancial.ca for details and conditions.
Hey, it's Ragnar from Ragnar Jewelers. Introducing my new Infinity Edge diamond pendant. 1 carat cultured diamond set in 14 karat gold for just under $1,400. Classic design that will last a lifetime. She sparkles and you shine. Visit us in store, 64th and Granville. Proudly Canadian and serving Vancouver for over 55 years. And remember, we have free parking in the back.
There's not much you can depend on these days, outside of death and taxes. But one thing that has a high probability of happening, the old Poly B plumbing in your home failing, causing significant damage to your most valued asset. Call on the Poly B plumbing guys today for your free assessment and remediation proposal, and never let it become a problem in the first place. Make the smart choice. Choose the Poly B plumbing guys at 604-616-0847. That's 604-616-0847.
Going on vacation? Spending money in another currency? From dollars to dollars, pounds to pesos. If you're still using major banks, you could be getting ripped off. Instead, use Wise and save up to 3 times compared to major banks when you spend money in another currency. Download the Wise app today.
and conditions apply.
A ticket from CanuckPlaceRaffle.com gives children with life-threatening illnesses the gift of great days and gives you the chance at half the jackpot. Estimated jackpot $500,000. Get your tickets by June 11. 19 plus play, know your limit, play within it. You're listening to Global News Hour at 6 on 730 CKNW. The Walk for Alzheimer's is back in communities across British Columbia. It's the Alzheimer's Society of BC's biggest fundraising event, honoring people affected by dementia and raising funds to support vital programs and services. Celebrate Mother's Day weekend at Township 7. Treat moms to a memorable weekend of events that include a bouquet workshop, a flower pop-up, and a roast brunch with live music. For RBC, I'm Safiya Karani.
Want more of the news that matters to you? For in-depth stories and must-see videos, visit globalnews.ca/BC.
Barry, you see the sports. You keeping on a lot of games tonight.
There's a lot of do or die, and it's amazing how much you can do when other options die. Like,
Pretty intense.
It's pretty good. There's a lot of great games going on. Let's get these things with it. Well, it's do or die for the Vancouver Warriors tonight at Rogers Arena. They have to beat the Buffalo Bandits to force a third and deciding game in their best-of-3 semifinal, or their season is over. The Bandits are a tough piece of business. They're the two-time defending league champs. They are super stingy defensively, having allowed just 7 goals total in their 2 playoff games so far. In lacrosse, if you hold the team under 10, you're doing good. Never mind 3.5 for an average. Warriors could only muster 3 in their Game 1 loss in Buffalo Friday night. Warriors looking to solve that stout Buffalo defense. Keegan Ball's going to have a big day, but not a great start. Bandits get an early power play, and it's Dane Smith kicking it past Christian Del Bianco, so 1-0 Buffalo, and then Ian McKay, who had a big Game 1 with 4 goals, can really shoot. That's his 7th of the playoffs. 2-0 Buffalo, but Vancouver settled down, and they finally break through, and it's Keegan Ball to Kevin Crowley. That made it 2-1, and Vancouver's doing better in this one. 3-3 right now, midway through the second. Full highlights tonight at 11. Well, the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs concludes tonight in Winnipeg. Jets and Blues in a sudden death, Game 7. It's a chance for Connor Hellebuyck to change the narrative about his playoff performances. He's going to win the Vezina for top goalie, maybe even be the NHL MVP, but he's been awful in the playoffs the past couple of years. But a Game 7 win would flip that script in a hurry for Hellebuyck. Home team has won all 6 games so far. That's good news for the Jets and Hellebuyck going up against Jordan Binnington. That's a rematch of the Four Nations final, which of course Binnington and Canada won. Worst case scenario start for the Blues score on their very first shot. That cannot be good for the confidence. Jordan Caillou knocks it in. That has to make Hellebuyck even more fragile. He's not feeling good. And on cue, the Blues get another. Matthew Joseph, not a noted goal scorer, scores from distance, and you cannot give that up in Game 7. 2-0 Blues, Jets in trouble. And to make matters worse, how about top defenseman Josh Morris? He's taking a hard hit, and he had to leave the game and did not return. Now, already without Mark Scheifele, was hurt in Game 6. But in the second, the Jets do get one, as Cole Perfetti deflects the Kyle Connor hard pass. No chance for Binnington on that, and the Jets have life at 2-1. But this is a killer. Final seconds of the second, Friday, and if necessary, a week from today. Here's a look at the overtime game winner last night. Nikita Tolopila, who had replaced Arthur Seeloff after the first period, after Seeloff led in 3 with the costly turnover. Jacob Melanson scores. 5-4 final, but the Canucks have been tremendous on home ice. I like their chances of winning this series. The Whitecaps just keep rolling along. They sent their unbeaten streak to 10 games last night with a 2-1 win over Real Salt Lake at BC Place. Not only are the Whitecaps winning, but they are playing beautiful soccer, entertaining, hard-working, and the goals, well, the style points have been massive, and they got 2 more beauties last night.
football, you know, so each game is a different time to make history, and that's what we want to do, because at the speed we're going at right now, we're doing something big, you know, not, like even if we stop today, you know, so we just need to keep going and keep having this winner mentality.
All right, Blue Jays and Cleveland Guardians closing out their three-game set at Fletcher Center, top of the fourth, 2-0 Guardians, when Gabriel Arias knocked in two more with his base hit. Now, Arias was thrown at a second trying to take the extra base, but damage done. 4-0 Cleveland. Jays answer, though, with three of their own in the bottom of the fourth. A key hit by Andres Jimenez. Alan Roden, Nathan Lucas come around to score. Jays right back in it. It's 4-3, but Cleveland's pitching staff closed them down. Abbotsford's Cade Smith in his second full season has been dominant again for the Guardians, worth a terrific seventh inning. Strikes out Anthony Santander. Smith has an amazing 1.08 ERA as the Guardians win a drive. HSBC Rugby Sevens from Los Angeles. Team Canada's women taking on the U.S. in the third place match. Canada was down, but takes the lead. Olivia Ash to Carissa Norston, who steams in for the try. Canada takes the lead 10-7. They would not look back. Early second half, Asia Hogan Rochester got some great speed, and she shows it here up the middle. No one's going to touch her. It's another try, and Canada picks up third place in the HSBC LA tournament as they rout the host Americans 27-7. NBA playoffs, Game 7. I guess it's do or die for these guys too. The Golden State Warriors with the Houston Rockets. Second quarter, former Raptor Fred VanVleet, so good in Game 6, hits the three, cuts the Golden State lead to 3, but the Warriors playing some good defense. Jimmy Butler with the mid-ranger, and it's 51-39. Golden State leading on the road at the half. In the East, Game 1 of the second round between top-seeded Cleveland and Indiana. Pacers have some Canadian content. Toronto's Andrew Nembhard, a key player. Fourth quarter, Nembhard hits the clutch three-pointer from distance. 107-102 Indiana, and then moments later, Nembhard again strokes the three. He had a team-high 23. They take Game 1, 121-112. Former Raptor Pascal Siakam, also a key part of the Pacers. Formula One in South Florida for the Miami Grand Prix. McLaren's Oscar Piastri looking for his fourth win and third straight win in just the sixth race of the F1 season. Max Verstappen started on the pole, but on lap 14, Piastri is going to finesse his way past Verstappen to take the